Hey guys, today we're going to talk a little bit about suppressor design. There are several different styles of suppressors that have been invented over the years. The market is kind of filtered down to what works the best and what's the easiest to manufacture. Right now on the market, there's two main designs that seem to dominate the market. One of them is called a monocore and the other one's called a K-baffle. These two designs are what I would say I see in 90% of the suppressors out there, if not more. We'll talk about a couple other different designs, but let's just start with the basics right now. The K-baffle suppressor and the monocore. This is a traditional K-baffle right here. They come in two different styles of assembly. One style of K-baffle is what we call a stacked suppressor or a stacked K-baffle design, and the other one is a welded baffle, a K-baffle design. And basically they call this a K-baffle because if you were to look at this piece right here in cross section, it basically in a schematic or a engineering drawing, the baffles look like the letter K. That's a K-baffle design suppressor right here. And when I mean stacked, you basically stack them like little Legos, and once you get them stacked like this, you put them inside the suppressor and they just stack up and the suppressor cap screws back on. This is a little 22 disassemblable can, stainless steel, nice little suppressor right here. The other style, what we were talking about, is monocore. From a manufacturing standpoint, this is a simpler design because there's fewer parts to machine. It might be as much machining as a K-baffle suppressor, but it is fewer parts to machine. A lot of guys argue that the monocore is not as effective, but in my opinion, I'm seeing more and more monocore baffle cans come out, and there's several of them are very effective. So I wouldn't discount a monocore over a K-baffle. I think a lot of it has to do with going into the design of either one, beyond just the general style. So this right here, it being one piece, they can take a piece of bar stock, mill this out, and they have very precise baffle alignment. They don't have to worry about one baffle being kind of cockeyed from the other. The other thing with monocore suppressors is in a 22 design, it makes them very easy to disassemble and clean. You don't have parts that you have to like break apart after they get caked with carbon and lead and wax and all that kind of stuff that builds up in 22 cans. So this is a Silencer Co. Sparrow, very cool suppressor, by the way. Has this clamshell design which makes it easy to take apart, put back together, and clean. We'll do a review of one of these later. This is a pretty neat little suppressor. So as you can see, this one goes together real easy. Doesn't take much to take it apart and goes back together. Pretty much perfect every time, since there is no stacking of the parts required. Those are the two, that's the king of the suppressor designs right now. You're going to see that in the majority of your suppressors. There's some other designs that still are running around, but they're not as common. You don't see them as often. And some of them are just design elements. It's part of the suppressor that you don't see as often. This right here is a suppressor off of our Uzi. This right here is this fat rear section is a heat shielded hand-hold expansion chamber. And basically this piece back here does not come apart, but it is it's kind of a tube with a bunch of little holes and baffles in it where it helps trying to catch some of the gas, but there's a little bit of a wall from the inside to the outside, so when you're holding the Uzi you can actually hold this piece without it getting super hot and burning you. So it's just a space for the gas to expand a little bit before it goes into the rest of the baffle system. This suppressor has an initial M baffle, and again, M baffle comes from the fact in cross section it looks like an M. This is like a blast cap or a initial blast baffle in front of the expansion chamber, and behind that it runs screw baffles, and basically it's like a helical baffle system with some porting in there. I don't know if you can see those little holes in there, but there's some little holes in between these looks like threads, and this one uses actually a counter rotating dual screw baffle. So the gas got to spin this way, and then it goes the other side, and they're trying to spin it the other way. And basically all we're doing here, guys, is trying to keep the gas in the suppressor as long as possible and let the pressure bleed out over the longest period of time as possible in order to reduce the sound signature. The other thing this can has that you're not going to see very often is wipers. Wipers have fallen out of favor a long time ago due to the fact that there was a lot of legality issues with constantly having to send your suppressor in to have it rebuilt, and nobody wants something that has a short lifespan, and wipers generally have a short lifespan than a baffle stack that does not actually touch the bullet. What's inside here are two, I don't know, some kind of hard rubber grommets, basically, one in the front, and there's a spacer, and then one in the back, and this has a little C-clip ring that you can snap the ring out and pop the baffle, those little rubber baffles out, so that you can replace them when they just get tore up. Some of the other things about suppressors, something you may have heard of is called a grease can. This is actually a 9mm suppressor. This is a standard size 9mm suppressor. This is an AAC Tyrant, nice cool suppressor. This is a 9mm suppressor as well. Under most circumstances, this suppressor right here can be as quiet as this suppressor. Why you say would you take this one over this one? This one's so much smaller. This suppressor right here uses and is designed to use a cooling media or grease. What we do with this thing is we take this very medical looking device right here, we fill it with white lithium grease, and it has this applicator in there. We stick the applicator in the suppressor from this side, and we squirt grease inside the can. We'll do a video all about running cans wet. We'll talk about that, how that works, and why that works. But that's a grease can. But pistol cans generally have what we call a recoil booster or a Nielsen device at the back. And what this does is it allows semi-automatic locking, lug, or tip barrel design pistols to run properly. There's the basic materials that you're going to see in suppressors are titanium, aluminum, stainless steel, and space age alloys. When guys don't want to tell you what they're making their cans out of, they call it space age alloy. For the most part, higher end cans, you're going to see Inconel, titanium, and high grade stainless like 17-4. Titanium has its benefits. The strength to weight ratio is very good. You could build suppressors like this guy right here, this G5T fast attach from Gemtech. This is a bad SOB right here, man. This is an awesome suppressor. Fast attached titanium, weighs very little, super quiet. Aluminum. You pretty much only see aluminum in 22 suppressors and pistol suppressors. Since higher caliber stuff, 5.56, 308, it needs the strength of titanium or stainless steel in order for it to stay together. On a side note, any of these baffle designs, there are two basic ways that you're going to see them. It's either going to be a stacked baffle system where one baffle just sits on the other, or it's going to be a welded baffle stack where they'll actually make these intricate pieces and machine on several different surfaces of them, and then take all these pieces and weld them together all the way around, seam them up, and so it ends up turning into a big tube, and then they slide a tube over that tube and weld it all together, so it ends up being really solid one piece. It could take a lot of pressure for something like 5.56. You're not going to see a lot of disassemblable 5.56 cans or 300 Win Mag cans, anything like that. 22's preferred design is something you can take it apart and clean. There's a wild card in the suppressor world. This right here is an STP oil filter, but this is an actual suppressor. This is called the Econo can right here. This piece right here, this little piece of metal, is a suppressor. That by itself is a suppressor. It's registered, takes $200 tax stamp to buy this. This one's actually been shot, if you can see from the front there. It is a working suppressor. It will reduce the sound signature. How effective it is, it depends on what's on the end of the suppressor. So that's a quick rundown on different styles, different designs. Stay tuned, guys. We're going to have a bunch more content coming to you. I'm going to do a ton of reviews, some more science stuff. Check us out on Facebook. Subscribe to the channel. And stay tuned. Stay safe.